Hello and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Before we start with the practice questions for the day, a quick gentle reminder. Byju's Exam Prep IAS has launched its official mega scholarship program. You would be able to avail as much as 60% of the discount on our live online classroom program as well as offline classroom program, and we have very limited number of seats, and this offer is valid only till 30th of May. So what are you waiting for? In the pinned comment section, we have pinned a comment and all the necessary information is given in the details. Let's get started and look into the first practice question. Consider the following provisions: allocation of seats in the House of the People, allocation of equitable sharing of time, electoral roll for every constituency, free supply of copies of electoral rolls. How many of these provisions are covered under the Representation of the People's Act of 1950? The answer to this is only two. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to electoral roll. It also makes a reference to Representation of the People's Act of 1950, which is why we have taken this practice question. When we look into election laws in the country, we have two important laws. One happens to be the Representation of the People's Act of 1950. The other happens to be Representation of the People's Act of 1951. When you look into Representation of the People's Act of 1950, it has some important provisions. This includes allocation of seats in the House of the People, filling of seats in the House of the People and parliamentary constituencies, total number of seats in Legislative Assembly and Assembly constituencies, total number of seats in Legislative Assembly of Sikkim and Assembly constituencies. Some of these important provisions are mentioned under the Representation of the People's Act of 1950. Added to it, what we have is the electoral rolls for the Assembly constituencies. So where is it mentioned? It is mentioned in the Representation of the People's Act. So when you look into allocation of seats in the House of the People, yes, it is mentioned in the Representation of the People's Act of 1950, and the electoral roll for every constituency is also mentioned in the 1950 Act. But when it comes to the other two, that is the allocation of equitable sharing of time, free supply of copies of electoral roll, these are mentioned in the Representation of the People's Act of 1951. So how many of these provisions are covered under the Representation of the People's Act? It is only two provisions which are covered under the 1950s Act. When you look into the 1951 Act, what does it speak about? It speaks about two important provisions. One is the allocation of equitable sharing of time, which says, notwithstanding anything contained in any other law for the time being enforced, the Elections Commission, on the basis of past performance of a recognized political party during elections, allocate equitable sharing of time on the cable television network and other electronic media in such manner as may be prescribed to display or propagate any election matter or to address public in connection with an election. This is in reference to the public broadcaster like the Doordarshan, so on and so forth. On the basis of the past performance of that political party, they will be provided time where they would be able to air the content. This is present in the Representation of the People's Act of 1951. Then free supply of copies of electoral roll is not in 1950s law, which means to say that when it comes to the preparation of the electoral roll for the constituencies, it is under 1950. But when it comes to the free supply copies of electoral roll, it is under 1951 Act. The government shall at any election to be held for the purposes of the House of the People or the Legislative Assembly of a state supply free of cost to the candidates of recognized political parties such number of copies of electoral roll as finally published under the Representation of the People's Act of 1950. So the publication happens under the Representation of the People's Act of 1950, but the free copies are provided under 1951 Act. As part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section, what about the local panchayats or the municipal elections? Are these covered under the Representation of the People's Act of 1951? If so, please put it on the comment section. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements with respect to Official Secrets Act of 1923. The Act applies to servants of the government and to citizens of India outside India. Lahore conspiracy case trial was held by a special tribunal constituted under the Official Secrets Act. Second, Administrative Reforms Commission recommended that the Official Secrets Act should be scrapped. How many of the above statements are incorrect? Since it is asking for the incorrect statement, the answer to this would be only one, which means to say that it is only the second statement which is wrong. The first statement and the third statement are right. How many of the above statements are incorrect? Only second statement is incorrect. So the answer to this would be only one. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to the Official Secrets Act. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement, the Act applies to servants of the government and to the citizens of India outside India. This statement is right. It not only applies to people who are present in India, it also applies to all those Indians who are also present outside India as well. It applies to government officials. It also applies to any citizen of India as well. So the first statement is right. When you look into the second statement, Lahore conspiracy case trial was held by a special tribunal constituted under the Official Secrets Act. This statement is wrong. Why? That is because it is not with respect to Official Secrets Act. It happened with respect to some other act. Which is this act that we are speaking about is what you have to put on the comment section. So when we speak about the Lahore conspiracy case trial, it happened in the year 1915. Why was it? That is because there was an attempt in the Ghadar conspiracy. As a result, all those people who were involved in the Ghadar conspiracy came under the Lahore conspiracy trial. Under which act is what you have to put on the comment section. When we speak about different reports, let's go back to the year 1971. We have the Law Commission of India, which was appointed in 1971, which looked into whether this entire process of the Official Secret Act, which has the colonial imprint, this should be present or not. The 1971 Law Commission of India went on to say we can go ahead and retain them. The second Administrative Reforms Commission, under the chairmanship of Veerappa Moily, went on to say that this should be scrapped, this should be repealed, and this should be replaced with a chapter in the National Security Act contained provisions relating to the official secrets. So it went on to say that this entire law should be scrapped and some of the provisions can be included in the National Security Act. Added to it, what we also have is another committee that was appointed by the Union government back in the year 2015 to look into the provisions of the Official Secrets Act in the light of the RTI Act. So this particular committee went on to say that the Official Secrets Act should be made more transparent and this should also be in sync with the RTI Act. That was the recommendation given by 2015 committee appointed by the central government. So basically, when we speak about the Official Secrets Act, remember this word secret is not defined in the Official Secrets Act. What is this act all about? It happens to be India's anti-espionage. In case there is a person, he can be an Indian, he can be any person, if he collects information which is against the security of the country, against the sovereignty of the country, and if he passes on this information to an alien or any person where this could be detrimental, what we will have is the imposition of the Official Secrets Act. So basically, communicating a sketch, a plan, or any secret to an enemy will fall under this Official Secrets Act. So a person who is giving this information, the person who is accepting this information are both culpable under this particular act. So remember, the act nowhere defines the term secret in the Official Secrets Act, and punishment will range from 3 years up until life imprisonment, and a person prosecuted under this act can also be charged with a crime even if the action was unintentional. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. POCSO Act sets a gender neutral term for the legal framework available to the child sexual abuse victims. Statement 2. The Act does not distinguish between perpetrators of child sexual abuse on the grounds of gender, and there have been instances where the courts have convicted women for such abuse. Which one of the following is correct in respect of the above statements? Both Statement 1 and Statement 2 are correct, and Statement 2 is the correct explanation for the Statement 1. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to the POCSO law, which is why we have taken this practice question. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement, POCSO acts as a general neutral term. What do we understand by this? Who is a child? A child is a person, an individual who is less than 18 years of age. When we say general neutral tone, it has two meanings to it. Generally, when you consider rape, it is only against the women. But when it comes to sexual assault, who is less than 18 years, it can be both a boy as well as a girl. So let's say, for example, there is a person, a boy who is less than 18 years of age. There is an aggressor who happens to commit a sexual assault on the boy. This boy who is less than 18 years of age is covered under the POCSO. When it comes to rape in general, it is only for the women, but when it comes to POCSO Act, what it means is it is gender neutral, so sexual assault, boys are also covered under it. Added to it, there is another meaning to it. It basically means that when it comes to rape, what exactly happens? A man commits this heinous act against a woman. But when it comes to such gender neutral laws, a woman who is above 18 years of age, who is matured enough, if she continues to conduct a sexual assault on a boy who is less than 18 years of age, in such cases, a woman is also culpable. She can also be thrown behind bars as well. There are ample number of cases. The judges have also awarded punishment to women if she is committed sexual assault against a boy who is less than 18 years of age. So basically, it carries two meanings. One, it is applicable to both boys and girls who are less than 18 years of age, and at the same time, this sexual assault can also be committed by a woman against a boy who is less than 18 years of age, and such women can also be thrown behind bars as well. So both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct, and statement 2 happens to be the right explanation with respect to statement 1. Now let's look into the next practice question. With respect to Comptroller and Auditor General of India, which of the following statements are correct? The administrative expenses of the office of the CAG, including all salaries, allowances and pensions of persons serving in that office, are charged upon the contingency fund of India. The CAG submits 3 audit reports directly to the Parliament. Audit report on appropriation accounts, audit report on finance accounts, audit report on public undertakings. The answer to this is none. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to CAG Mamu, who was re-elected as WHO External Auditor for 4-year term, which is why we have taken this practice question. When you look into the first statement, yes, the administrative expenses of the office of the CAG, including salaries, allowances and pensions of the persons serving in that office, are charged not on the contingency fund of India, but the consolidated fund of India. So the first statement is wrong. When you look into the second statement, yes, the CAG does submit these audit reports, but not directly to the Parliament. First, it submits it to the President. It is the President who ultimately submits it to the Parliament. So basically, we have the audit report on appropriation account, audit report on finance account, and audit report on public undertakings. All these are taken up by the CAG, given to the President, and indeed, it is the President who gives it to the Parliament. So the CAG is ultimately accountable to the Parliament, and all these reports are further scrutinized by the Public Accounts Committee. Now let's look into the next practice question. Salinization occurs when the irrigation water accumulated in the soil evaporates, leaving behind salts and minerals. What are the effects of salinization on the irrigated land? It greatly increases the crop production. It makes some soils impermeable. It raises the water table. It fills the air spaces in the soil with water. Which of them is the correct explanation? The answer to this is it makes some soils impermeable. This happens to be a previous year question question from the year 2011. So salinization on the irrigated land basically makes some soils impermeable. Salinization occurs when the irrigation water accumulated in the soil evaporates, leaving behind some of the salts and minerals. It also makes some soils impermeable, which is the effect of salinization on the irrigated land. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2011. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is light pollution. Let us try and understand what is this concept of light pollution. As the very name denotes, pollution caused by the light is the light pollution. What do we understand by this? This is nothing but artificial brightening of the sky. We know for the fact that humans have made a large scale inventions. One such invention happens to be the electricity, and through electricity what we are initiating is the light sky, and as a result artificial brightening of the night sky caused by the man-made lightning sources which have a disruptive effect both on the natural cycles of human beings as well as animals and inhibits the observation of the stars and the planets is what is called as light pollution. So what is light pollution? Making use of the artificial sources of light, and ultimately this results in what is called as disruption of some of the natural cycles with respect to the humans as well as animals, and we would not be able to see the natural light that is present in the night is what is called as light pollution. This is also called as photo pollution. This is also called as luminous pollution, and this is the presence of excessive artificial light. What are the causes of light pollution? When we speak about the causes of light pollution, unnecessary use of the artificial lights. Let's say for example, we have these huge pillars that carry huge lights, and this will be illuminating a lot of light in that particular area. So illumination of unnecessary light is one of the major cause. Added to it, poorly designed residential, commercial and other industrial outdoor lights can also be another area, and unshielded light fixtures which emit more than 50% of their light skyward, sideways rather than putting on the road is another major area. So in case there is a wrongly designed light lamp, and this particular light lamp should ideally illuminate light on the ground, but instead of it, it is wrongly designed and it reflects light to the sky, and also sideways is the major problem with respect to the light pollution. What is the effect of light pollution? From screens to buildings, LEDs and other sources of light have increased light pollution exponentially. Apart from obliterating the view of the sky night, light pollution will have several effects on animals who navigate by the stars. It can also have consequences for the human health. So there are birds, there are animals which look into the sky and they also navigate as well. Because of excessive artificial man-made induced light, they would not be able to do so. In the age of countless images and algorithms, the splendor of the morning star, of the hunter and the bird hold little value. So people who love night skies, people who love astronomy, people who love skies, they would not be able to see it, and ultimately this is another major issue. This will also have significant effects on the humans. There will be spillovers, glare are some of the lightning outcomes that also cause eye strain, loss of clear vision, aging of the eyes and stress as well, and this also modifies competitive interactions of the animals, tampers with the migratory patterns, and ultimately distorts predatory prey relations as well. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this topic. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.